Hello everybody, this is Aftermath Review and I'm presenting to you yet another review about Heroes and Generals. Yes, I know I was on a quite long hiatus, but let's change that right now. Heroes and Generals is a fairly new World War II shooter. It recently came into open beta and as an avid fan of history, I decided to give it a shot as soon as I've seen it. It's a free-to-play multiplayer game. That means the game could be unfairly balanced, pay to win, or even just very grindy. Those are some of the problems it could have. But let's look at what the developer promises. They promise some kind of general mode, where you command troops, and an infantry mode where you play as an infantry unit. Your soldier will gain experience, level up, get higher salaries the more you play, and is able to visit various schools, from tankman to pilot, from paratrooper to recon. They also promise a realistic setting and maps, with some very realistic feeling weapons. Does that all work together? Let's find out. First things first, the game is indeed fairly realistic. The weapons have a backlatch which is, for someone who actually used them at a shooting range, like me, feeling somewhat realistic. You can reduce the backlash with various upgrades. However, every upgrade has not only a huge benefit, but also a comparably small deficit. For example, if you use your explosive ammo, your aim stability will decrease and your shot is more likely to miss the target. You gotta find out what you prefer yourself. I for myself use a very stable but deadly sniper rifle with a cripplet range, which means it falls off quicker, but if it hits anywhere but the leg, the enemy usually falls over instantly. But can the developer deliver? Let's find out. The realism of the game is the huge plus it has. While it hasn't the most realistic game on the market, the realism is enough to make the game feel well. The huge open maps are also an indicator of the game's biggest strength. You can flank your enemies with tanks or on foot, or with a fast vehicle, or even bicycles you can just pick up near civilian homes. Most maps are capture and holding positions, and they take an average of 20 to 45 minutes to complete. Depending on who wins, the defending team must, in case they cannot capture the last spawn point of their opponents, at least wait half an hour to a whole hour if everything but the last control point fell to the enemy hands. There are some rather huge 3-point captures and hold map as well, in which you lose points if you have less outposts than your enemy. However, those are, in difference, very little maps in total. That doesn't mean they are less fun, it just means that there's less likely to be a map on them. Both those game models work really well with a team, and while everything is useful one way or another, it could be that a sniper is more useful if you push from, let's say, an outpost B3 to B4, and a tank is more useful if you push from B4 to B5. This is because the maps are designed in a way where you start at the very outskirt of the map and try to capture the middle. Usually said middle gets busier with buildings or walls, while the outskirts usually only have a farmhouse or two and a lot of trees with them. As I already mentioned, the weapons are fairly good. It makes fun to use them, unlocking them takes a while, but basically there's a significant difference in their playstyle. Yet, none of them feels cheaply overpowered once you get them. The only offside is that the only scope weapon in is the sniper rifle. While you can upgrade everything, you cannot upgrade a sniper rifle or fit a scope on a non-sniper rifle. So you will be limited to that one scoped weapon only. At this point I probably should mention that you have to either choose Axis or Allies, and obviously those have their respective counterparts of weapons. You start with the Gewehr 42 when you choose the Axis, and you start with the M1 Grant if you choose the Allies. However, there are some small bothers with the game. Obviously, because it's a free-to-play title, it's not full of those, but still there are some of them which just need to take a look on. As it's a free-to-play title, the biggest deficit are to be expected, and this game is a lot pay-to-skip. While I believe that pay-to-skip becomes the new pay-to-win, let me explain what I mean. You can buy specialized soldiers for gold. You can buy weapons with gold but you don't even qualify for yet. You can buy pretty much everything with gold. But you can also buy it with in-game money, and you can also qualify for it by having trades up the badge. For example, recon work, running and shooting with carabines. That means if you're grinding a lot, you averagely earn 5 to 7,000 per game, and a sniper rifle is around 100,000 for example. Chances are, if you have the license to use one, you will have more than enough money. And tanks are also fairly affordable, you just need to maintain them. That you can only do with cash, not with actual gold, so you will have a disadvantage if you are a pay-to-win player. That being said, if you play really bad, chances are you will not make enough money from the soldier's salary alone to maintenance your tanks. That being said, playing bad with tanks is also pretty hard in this game, as the only counter to tanks are other tanks or Panzerschrecks. Panzerschrecks are kind of rare, as you cannot bring them into battle. They are usually laying around in houses and control points of the defenders or offender sides, depending on how much mechanized units the enemy can have. More to that later. But now next thing that is a little bit bad about the whole game, which is the Generals mode. At the moment it's a huge grind fest. In order to get assault troops you need to get strategic cash. You can only earn strategic cash if you capture a lot of points in game, and it also offers very little benefit. However, a huge patch was announced that should change this a lot. At this point in time it's rather weird to use feature. However, it's a really important feature because at the end of the day you buy troops, for example infantry troops, then they get experience, then you can level them up, for example paratroopers, and you have to send them around the world map. Now if you don't send them to the world map, that means on the certain spots in the world where there's a fight, for example let's say Paris, there's a fight in Paris, if you don't have paratroopers here, you cannot actually fight for Paris with a paratrooper soldier, because there's no paratrooping going on. That's where multiple soldiers come in effect. You can buy multiple soldiers, so you don't have only one soldier but 5 soldiers. Let's say you have a tankman and the usual infantryman. If you queue up with your tankman and your tanky troops, or the mechanized units basically, gets annihilated and their ticks drop to 0, that it will automatically change to the other soldier and join a different assault squad with the as a normal infantry unit. That's basically how the game makes it work. And this is where the general mode gets kind of important. So you have to actually buy those units at one point, and there's nothing to spend the strategic cash on anyway. So you can just go ahead, buy them and send them somewhere where there's a fight. Another problem with the Generals mode is that it's currently scripted in a way where it's becoming very laggy for no reason. And that's a little weird, but it's nothing too bad to deal with. The troops are moving very fast anyway. Sometimes it happens that, let's take Paris as an example, one side has around 120 different troops there, and you can respawn 120 times the total, while the other side only has a garrison of 32. So that means the game can be fairly over quickly if the enemy dies 32 times, because then they have no more troops and the landmark is instantly taken. This is very, very, very uncommon, but it can happen. Also, those games kind of take very long. Half an hour to an hour, at least. Well, that's a long time, so you can't just open it up and play like you can in any regular shooter. But for what's worth, it's a great military title which I do rather enjoy, even with the grind. It's realistic enough for me to enjoy it because I'm getting sick of the recoil shooters such as Call of Duty. At such a rate, this game is 7.5 out of 10. The grindy aspects, rather weak graphical fidelity, and the general gameplay makes me not want to rate this any higher. However, it doesn't deserve to be ranked any lower because it's a pretty good game. And I think for a free-to-play title, nobody really can complain, especially not if you like the Second World War and a realistic feeling, because this can the game offers. Also, no regenerative health. That's the best feature of all. Have a good day. Good almighty. Aftermath Reviews, signing out. Till next time.